What does perfect TV look like? Well, it doesn't look like this, am I right? You have to get so many things right to make good TV, so when someone pulls that off, it's impressive. But today, I want to answer the question, what is the best show of all time? What does 10 out of 10 television really look like? Probably Breaking Bad. Yeah, that's good. Demon Slayer is not a 10 out of 10 show, but it does have a 10 out of 10 episode. Never Give Up. I've forced so many of my friends to watch this episode. You don't have to watch the show, but you need to check this episode out. Trust me, dude, it's so good. Come on, dude. It opens up by beating the dire hopelessness of the situation into you. You don't need to watch 35 episodes to know that this is not good. And just when you think the protagonist has given up, you suddenly realize that this clever kid is doing anything but. Trapped in a situation where it is utterly impossible for him to win, he stands strong until the bitter end. And then out of nowhere, this freak who just lost an arm shows up and is like, alright, it's winning time. As the soundtrack soars, pouring life into my soul, and I watch this beautiful scene created by animators who probably didn't get to see their family for weeks, I'm reminded that anything is possible. The swell of adrenaline you'll get while watching this episode is so high that when this guy gets stabbed in the heart and goes, I'm alive because I move my organs around, so my heart dodged the blade, and also I grew up in the mountains, so I'm immune to poison. You go, okay, cool. I'm totally fine with that. The pure determination of Tanjiro makes this episode the absolute pinnacle of shonen anime, a height that will never be reached again, and it's what inspired me to fight against all odds and hit Silver 5 in competitive Overwatch. Speaking of shows, Shogun is a 10 out of 10 show that came out this year. It's a political war drama that's both historically and culturally accurate in its depictions of 1600 Japan. It's a show that makes you constantly go, what? They did that? That's insane! Plot twist, betrayal, romance, betrayal, brutal gory action scenes, compelling dialogue, lovable characters, hateable characters, betrayal. The entire show is better than anything that's ever happened in Game of Thrones, and you can trust me on that because I've never watched Game of Thrones and I'm assuming that I'm right. The dialogue in this show is high art. Some of these characters just speak in tear-jerking poetry, and then the white guy goes, I'd rather drink my own diarrhea than shag your ugly mug again. It's also gorgeous. Every frame is a painting. The 5 billion different things that go into making a shot look good. Set design, props, lighting, blocking, cinematography, nothing less than perfection from every one of these departments for the entire show. Pause this video and go watch Shogun right now, you big dumb idiot. The show's also a one-shot. It's based on a book and they cover the whole book in one season just like they planned. It wraps up beautifully and perfectly in my opinion. And then it performed really well, so now they're like, we gotta make another season, greenlight another one, we'll figure it out, I don't know. Was season 1 of Shogun perfect? Yes. Do I have faith in the future of this show? No. Arcane! If you hate yourself, you might have played the hit game League of Legends. Riot Games, realizing they could make money, turned to some screenwriters and went, hey, write a show about our game. Here's a bunch of lore about the world and the characters you can use. And the writers went, no thanks, and made their own lore that was so damn good that Riot Games went, okay, that's the real lore now. I recently saw a tweet that said, I don't understand people who are having children right now. The planet is cooked, there's a virus disabling and killing everyone, we're fast-tracking fascism, and I don't think anyone is going to stop any of it. Why would you put another human into this world? The answer is simple. Arcane Season 2 is coming out. If you like tragedy, you will adore Arcane. Season 1 is 3 acts long with 3 episodes per act. The first act follows the main characters, sisters Vi and Powder, as children growing up in the Undercity. They do this so you become emotionally attached to these children, and then you become devastated when they eventually break the children's hearts and also minds. And then they do a time jump, and every other tragic thing that ever happens to these characters is with the context of what could have been had it not been for that one single day going so dreadfully wrong when they were children. It's amazing. The thing at the heart of many good tragedies is the fact that they weren't inevitable. There's a version of Romeo and Juliet where they live happily ever after, and the glimpse of that lost possibility is what makes it so gut-wrenching. Arcane has its finger on the pulse of this idea the whole time. There are constant glimmers of hope, joy, and peace that get snuffed out, often not even because of any kind of evilness or cruelty, but just simply from misfortune or ignorance. No one in this show is just straight up evil, although it may seem that that way on first impression. Everyone is doing what they believe is best for themselves and the people around them, and sometimes even the world, and then through ignorance and pride, they destroy it. Hell, the name of the last song on this show's soundtrack is What Could Have Been, because this show is not subtle in the best way. Let me explain. The Boys is a show that, even though I like a lot of the things it has going on, overall I'm honestly pretty sick of. I'm a person that aligns with the politics that the people making this show seem to have, but I'm also getting sick of the bluntly divisive way that they are choosing to portray these topics. The newest season introduces Firecracker, who is clearly supposed to be a parody of like far-right conspiracy theorists who babble nonsense to sow division for money. This was obvious from the first time she appears on screen, but the show makes great efforts to make sure you understand exactly what they're going for in the least subtle way possible. Here, let's show that the thing she's saying is stupid nonsense by having her say the most egregiously stupid nonsense we can think of.
If you add up all
You ain't leaving my sight.
of all of the Tom Hanks movies, you get 311, which is the police code for child. It's just mad.
Alright, Ryan Higa. Let's make sure the audience knows she's a parody of Alex Jones by name-dropping Alex Jones at the conspiracy theorist convention. How should we show her motivations for doing this? I know, let's have someone walk up to her and ask what her motivations are, and then she can just explain them. That's so great, I'm a great writer. This is not subtle in the worst way because it's treating the audience like they're stupid. It's sitting you down and explaining in excruciating detail what something means, even though you already understood 3 hours ago. Arcane is a perfect example of how to do a complete lack of subtlety in the best way. It's incredibly obvious with its messaging, but it doesn't treat you like an idiot who needs your hand held either. There's these characters, Jace and Victor, who go on to work on technology and magic stuff together. You start to get the sense that Jace is getting caught up in his work, getting a big head, and kind of leaving Victor behind. Now, what makes you get that sense? Do they have 12 long scenes showing this happen? Do they have Victor walk up to Jace and go, "I feel like you're getting caught up in your work and leaving me behind"? No, they just do this. The opposite of subtle, yet simply beautiful, without wasting any of your time. Speaking of time, when I started writing this video, I thought it was gonna be 3 minutes long. So I should probably move on from Arcane before I talk about it for 500 more years. Just know it's a 10 out of 10 tragedy, and you should stop the video and go watch it. Go watch it right now, you big idiot, you big dumb, you stupid little— I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. You should like and subscribe. Legion is a show that I would have thought was a 10 out of 10 if I wasn't sober. This show sucks. Twitter lied to me. Love Island UK is a 10 out of 10 reality show.
Jess, Jessie.
I'm not scared to step on toes.
Unfortunately, you're gonna step on people's toes. It's obviously hard in here to like step on people's toes or whatnot, but
yeah, obviously man has to step on toes.
yeah.
You can tell you're a good person and you don't want to like obviously step on toes too much.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
gonna go
but-
in there with the
Yeah, but you got to step on toes.
gender.
Yeah.
Are you gonna tread on toes?
I'm not going to step on toes, I'm going to stamp on them.
Utopia is an excellent, groundbreaking, creative, compelling show that I would never recommend to anyone because they canceled it when it still had 1 season left to go and it ends on a massive cliffhanger. 10 out of 10 don't watch this show. Beef is a 10 out of 10 show that I cannot finish because I have a vomit phobia. What? I know how to use my new microphone, nothing bad happened. I'm a big fan of shows that do whatever they want. Community is a sitcom that takes place in a community college. I showed my mom a couple episodes of this show and she asked me, what is this show even about? Exactly. Sometimes it's a zombie apocalypse, sometimes it's a documentary of the world's largest pillow fight, and sometimes Jeff and Britta decide they're gonna get married and everyone else decides they should die for that. It's beautiful, irreverent, and a free expression of whatever Dan Harmon felt like expressing at the time. This is also why Rick and Morty is like that. Sometimes Rick and Morty puts out episodes that the entire Rick and Morty fan base seems to absolutely despise with a burning passion, and I'm just over here like, I thought it was funny. They never piss off their audience on purpose, though. That's what the Eric Andre show is for. The Eric Andre show had this one bit called Bird Up that fans widely and loudly agreed was one of the worst segments to ever air on the show. Eric Andre responded to these concerns the following season with an entire episode called Bird Up.
The worst show on television.
Well, as soon as I start, we cut to Bird Up.
Every time, okay, I can start, but...
Watching this show will speak to you in profound ways that are impossible to explain or put into words, and you'll feel a little bit less sane if you manage to get through the whole thing. It's also great exposure therapy if you have emetophobia. This is a 10 out of 10 show if you don't like enjoying things. Bojack Horseman was created by people who know how to express the hell out of their ideas. This show that's kind of insane in concept is actually very grounded throughout. This story about famous anthropomorphic animals touches on so many intense subjects that can be difficult to talk about in really loving and inspired ways. It knows how to balance comedy and tragedy, the hope and despair that is life. Despite there being so many layers of parody, irony, and just straight up silliness, this show will often hunker down and open up a window into the very soul of the human condition. Bojack Horseman proves itself to be a masterpiece of a show by season 2, and then somehow manages to improve each of the 4 seasons that follow that one. From the goofiness of Todd's antics, Mr. Peanut Butter's parties, and the adventures of character actress Margot Martindale, to more intense segments like watching addicts go on self-destructive benders, haunting depictions of generational trauma, and funeral monologues. There is a near flawless execution to every single idea that they bring to the table. In my opinion, the episode titled The View from Halfway Down is one of the greatest pieces of art ever created. It's a dream sequence that gives tremendous tribute to the many traumatic events that have happened to Bojack throughout the show, analyzing everything in ways that are fascinating and exhilarating without ever lingering or feeling too overbearing. It's carried by these excellent exchanges of rapid-fire dialogue amongst a cast of characters with entirely different worldviews who are all coming together for one significant purpose. It goes from humorous to haunting to delivering the most moving, powerful, and unforgettable monologue that I've ever heard. It's a perfect finale, a perfect ending for a perfect show. And then it's not even the finale, because the creator of this show doesn't believe in endings, and this is a show that does what it wants and what it believes in, and it's a good show. You should go watch this show. I'm pretty sure that every creative person in the film industry has had some version of this conversation before.
This is brilliant.
We just had 5 minutes of him reading a book to himself.
Oh my God, yes, just him turning the page, close up of my eyeball. The real, they never show that. We really made something new and different and daring.
And that's why we're all jealous of Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul has the amazing benefit of being a spin-off of Breaking Bad, which gives it way more safety to do whatever the hell it wants. That means this show often operates at a much slower pace than most other shows would be willing to, but that's because the writers know the power that this story and these characters hold. You're gonna watch Saul take a shower and get dressed, and you're gonna like it. Vince Gilligan, the writer and director of both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, is one of the greatest storytellers alive today, and also maybe of all time. He understands the fundamentals of television so well that he constantly gets away with breaking the rules. I'm gonna put a couple of cartoon character bad guys in my incredibly grounded show, and you're all gonna like it because the show is good and this somehow works. There's really not many examples of shows that make things up as they go and it actually working out. But Vince does such a good job at it that I'm still not entirely sure he isn't just lying about his whole creative process. What do you mean this wasn't the plan all along? He just has his finger on the pulse of what makes a story compelling, what we as an audience want to see. Jesse was originally supposed to just straight up die in season 1, but the actors had such good chemistry, if you will, that he ended up being the second main character of the show, often operating as the moral backbone and consciousness that Walter goes on to abandon. Saul Goodman was originally meant to show up in this episode of Breaking Bad, but the actor couldn't make it to set that day, so Vince made up the character Mike Ehrmantraut on the spot to do the job instead. This completely changed the course for what kind of a character Saul would be, and also invented an entirely new one. Yet they both go on to be such fundamental parts of the show that I can't imagine it going any other way. If it weren't for this creative decision that Vince just made on a whim, we wouldn't have an entire spin-off prequel show revolving around the lives of these two characters. In Better Call Saul, Jimmy was originally meant to don the Saul Goodman pseudonym in season 1, and also a main character who I'm not saying because spoilers was supposed to die. But this season proved that there was so much left to explore with both Jimmy and this secretly alive other character that neither of these things happened, and the show went on for 5 5 more seasons. Both of these shows are flawlessly told stories created by a genius and really good casting people. Every twist, every setup, every mind-blowing payoff solidifies these shows as prestige television 10 out of 10. If you like not knowing whether you should be rooting for or against the main character, watch these shows. If you aren't sure whether revenge is bad or not, watch Better Call Saul. And also Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan's also a good one if you're on the fence about war. So, what's the most 10 out of 10 show of all time? Well, that's up to you. Critics do have value. If you find yourself a critic whose opinions tend to align with yours, then you've got yourself a great recommendation system. It can be absolutely joyous to hear someone rave about a work of art that they loved, and it can also be dementedly gleeful to listen to someone rant about a show that they hated. It can be good to see what's popular and what's not, where people's opinions on things tend to fall, but then you might miss out on a hidden gem you would have never tried otherwise, or you might watch Legion. Legion is so bad! What am I missing? Are we watching the same show? Box office numbers and award shows have tricked us into believing that art has to be a competition. Movies that don't make $500 billion the weekend they come out are considered flops now. You can't enjoy things without ranking them amongst others. It can be cool to acknowledge the success and 10 out of 10-ness of something you loved, but in my opinion, the culture we've cultivated out of ranking everything that we see ultimately just serves to put good things down. I love Rick and Morty, right? And I think the Vat of Acid episode is one of the best in the whole series. But to say it's better than The View from Halfway Down?
It's one of the greatest pieces of art ever created.
Are we serious right now? Some moron running this award show has a different opinion about art than me. What if these things were simply never forced to compete in the first place? I mean, it's not like they're trying to accomplish even remotely the same thing. Why put one down at all? Ratings are objective numbers that we assign to subjective art. Any show can be a 10 out of 10 if you loved it that much, even if it's Legion for some reason. There's great value in hearing other people's opinions, but you should never let someone else's opinion mold your own from the ground up. Think for yourself, enjoy things no one else likes, love things no one else understands, and never let anyone stop you from doing what you want with your life, or watching the TV show you want to watch. Be sure to subscribe so you can watch my next video, The Botched Return of Rick Grimes, where I rant about how you should never watch any of the shows in the Walking Dead franchise ever again, and also they should kill all their shows in their franchise and make it stop forever. Okay, thank you. Also, the answer is Breaking Bad.